Hey, everybody. Welcome to On Cinema. You are listening to our new podcast. Not new anymore. This is our 30th episode.
Wow.
And I have nothing that special planned except that this is the 30th anniversary. It's not I got to look this up. It's not the 30th anniversary of this movie, but it...
What is the movie?
JFK.
Oh, wow.
Oliver Stone. It is about the president. My guest, I'm sorry I didn't introduce my guest, is Greg Turkington, film buff.
Hey, guys.
And we are, like I said, talking about the movie JFK, starring Dennis...
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner.
Very, very different than Dennis Hopper. And then the last name's rhyme, and that's about the only similarity.
That's what must have gotten stuck in my head. Anyway...
But they did star together in a movie. Can you name it?
Do not put me on the spot.
Well, that's kind of what
That's why I bring you here, because you can tell me. I'll tell you what. Let's switch the tables. Greg, can you name the movie that Kevin Costner and Kevin Costner and Dennis Hopper starred in together?
It is Waterworld.
Oh yeah.
Which we probably. It's not my choice. I don't actually decide on the movies we do on this podcast. In case anyone was wondering what goes on behind the scenes, Tim decides on the films. But I think I'm speaking for him when I say we probably won't be doing a Waterworld episode.
No way,
because it's not
supposed to be
the best film.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a big flop. But let's talk
I
about
saw
what we're here to talk about.
I actually saw it in the drive-in theater, and that was a long night. You know.
Well,
I had to go back and get a refill on the root beer 3 times.
Speaking of Kevin Costner, let's talk about JFK.
Yeah.
So JFK is a movie about John F. Kennedy, who was the president in the 60s, 61 to 63. First
assassination. First assassinated.
No,
I guess not actually, because it's Lincoln.
He was very different. He was from Boston. He was Catholic. Very progressive,
very
young, had a young wife, had 2 kids.
Marilyn Monroe. I mean, they talk about that in the movie. They talk about it in the movie a little bit.
Yeah, but we won't get into that because you never know who's listening.
Yeah.
But this is a great movie. It's about the president and more specifically about the way he died, because I don't want to give anything away, but he was...
Costner doesn't play JFK.
No.
When you see the poster...
That's what's confusing.
Yeah, because it's JFK starring Kevin Costner. Well, guess what? Whoever plays JFK, I don't remember, is barely in the thing at all.
Yes. Well, it is about the investigation about a certain thing that happened to JFK. Can we say that much?
I think we can say whatever we want because we don't have a sponsor.
Right.
That you
I
haven't
know,
gotten
but I don't want
that.
to get a bunch of hate mail.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose sponsorship opportunities, but I've been trying to get those going with some emails and things, and I haven't had any luck. So it's not my show, though. So
anyhow, what the hell was I saying? It's a long movie, and tons of great people.
Too long.
No, not well. Who knows? But John Candy's in it, and but it's not a comedy. And Oliver Stone directed it. All right, that's JFK. Thanks for listening. 30 episodes. How exciting! Appreciate it, and talk to you next week. Hey everybody, welcome to my podcast called On Cinema. It's on iTunes, and it's available also if you know the On Cinema feed at dinnerheads.com/oncinema cinemafeed.xml or something like that. If you're listening to it, then you probably know what it is, and you can post it online. My guest today is a podcast I was going to say a podcast expert. He's actually a film buff named Greg Turkington.
Yeah, well, I'm not a podcast expert, but I'm becoming one doing this show, and having done so many episodes of On Cinema, I'm proud to be part of the On Cinema family.
Definitely my the reigning champion in the most appearances on the show award, I think, goes to you.
Yeah, I think it's something more than that, though. But
No, I'm saying you've been on more episodes of this as my guest than anybody else. And
yeah,
it's,
well, I
because
have.
you're a great
Yeah, I
guest.
definitely have, and
Yeah.
that's because can be hard to find experts when it comes to cinema.
For free, that's for sure. But my movie today
Well, I mean,
is
it's
no. Well, let me just get into the movie. The movie today is The Officer and a Gentleman, which is the 20th anniversary, and it stars Richard Gere and Deborah Winger as the wife of the lieutenant. The Officer and a Gentleman.
yeah. Well, I guess he's the gentleman, and she must be the
No.
officer.
Not quite. It's mostly about him as a general, and or he's in the Navy, and really good good movie about the Navy.
Good period piece.
Yeah, and it's about Vietnam is in the movie, and great love story.
Yeah, well, what can you say about it? It's a classic. Everyone listening has seen the movie before. Sometimes it's good to revisit a movie that you've seen before and see if maybe you missed something the first time around. And I think you'll find that you did miss something, which is that this movie is amazing. It's a lot of fun.
So it's An Officer and a Gentleman. It's on TV often. There's a couple of steamy scenes. It's definitely an R movie. So if you want to see the full movie, you're gonna have to either rent it or catch it on Showtime or HBO.
Or just borrow it from a friend. I have a lot of friends that loan me DVDs. I loan them VHS or DVD. And that's a good way to do things.
Yeah, we'll keep
no money has to change hands.
right,
and it's
but
totally
but
legal.
oftentimes I know people that do that, and then if we go, I don't know where it is, or
That's with books. I think with
Yeah.
DVDs and videos, people are a little more conscientious.
and don't scratch the DVD. Make sure you put it right back in the case.
And also be kind. Rewind if you're borrowing the VHS, because nothing is more annoying than having to rewind a videotape.
I can't tell you the last time I watched a VHS. I'm almost all DVD now, and I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, well, you're missing a lot of the old movies then, because they don't come out on DVD. A lot of the old classics came out originally on VHS. And if you have I've got a big library. I've got over 1,000 VHS tapes, so I would not really want to just throw those away and switch to DVD at this point. It would be foolish because I would lose a lot of the old classic movies. And I have a lot of money and time invested in this collection. And I'll tell you, I always know when someone returns the videotape, I always know who was the last one to watch it because I rewind everything after I watched it. If I've loaned it to someone and they put it back on my shelf and it's all alphabetical by genre,
It's like your apartment's like a movie rental store. Going in there, it feels
Well,
like that in a good way.
it's kind of no, because that wouldn't have sort of a homey quality to it. I
Right.
like to think that a house is a home.
That'd be a good idea. You can have your own video rental store. Anyways, do you have a copy of Officer and a Gentleman if we were to come by and rent?
I do, but yeah, it's come on. I think people listening can find it on their own, and
All
it's
right.
very easy to find if you frequent.
Well, I'm
flea
sorry if I
markets or-
offended you. I just.
Well, if you go to flea markets or if you go to estate sales, this is a popular movie.
And there's a famous scene with him carrying her out, and she puts the hat on her head.
And Richard Gere is a great actor, and Deborah Wingert.
Thank you very much. And Officer and a Gentleman, 20th anniversary, important movie, and we'll see you next time. Okay, welcome to On Cinema. Let's try a little Name That Tune. My name is Tim Heidecker. My guest is Greg Turkington. And Greg, name this tune.
The Addams Family.
Did you get? It's the Addams Family.
I know the tune well. I'm a big fan of the original TV show and also the movie, and also you told me we were doing the Addams Family today.
And well,
so-
part of broadcasting is you have to use your imagination a little bit. And next time, don't give away that I told you the name of the movie.
Yeah, well, I would have got it. I would have got it anyway. So, because I love the TV show, and we're talking about the movie today, though, which is a little different. A lot of the cast were not available either.
Let me back up and say that the movie we're
away.
doing. Let me just say back up and say the movie we're doing today on Cinema is Addams Family from 1996.
With John Astin.
No, with John Astin's from a TV show. This was from the movie called Addams Family with Raul. What the heck? He's a
Raul
Australian guy.
Yeah.
Or African guy. I mean, Italian, Latin guy. His name is Raul Julia.
Raul Julia. He passed away. It's kind of strange that they wouldn't have gotten John Astin.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, he could have done the role. He wasn't too old because guess what? Raul Julia is dead. John Astin's still alive. So Raul Julia is actually the older of the two. And I believe John Astin would have been better in the role.
Was there any controversy around his death because of... it is a sort of a horror movie, and sometimes you hear, like, for example, the movie Poltergeist. Has everyone heard that story? It's a sad story about the girl who's in Poltergeist, and she died.
Oh, they all died. Everybody in it died. The whole cast is dead. There's no controversy about the Addams Family. The controversy is simply why hire an older actor to play a role.
Well, let's not focus on the negative. The positive of this movie is it's very funny, very macabre, and also one of my favorite actors of all time is in the movie, Christopher Lloyd.
I love Christopher Lloyd, and I think they could have kept Christopher Lloyd, but ditched Raul Julia.
Well, everything about this is great. The art direction is great. The music is perfect, of course.
No, that's it. The movie's great, but if you had John Astin, then you'd have a classic. And this missed being a classic by just a hair, but it's still a good movie.
It's still 4 stars.
You watch it.
And check out Addams Family if you want to spook, but not so much that it's going to give you nightmares. It's just a fun movie. It's great to watch with kids. It's great to watch. And if you love Christopher Lloyd, check it out because obviously, Christopher Lloyd from
Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future, Back to the Future 3.
Yeah, and he's great in it. It's almost like, I can't believe he wasn't in the TV show because he's so pitch perfect in the movie. Anyways, Addams Family is on...
somebody good on the TV show.
Addams Family on DVD and also available on cable.
Favorite character is Lurch.
Hey everybody, welcome to On Cinema, the podcast where we talk about all things cinema. I focus generally in on one film, and we discuss it through, I have a guest on, and that guest today is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hold for answer, or maybe not, because sort of a hypothetical question, I guess.
Yeah, well... It's fun. Love doing the podcast, and I'm excited about this episode today. What's the movie?
The movie today is called Being There, starring
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
And the guy from MASH. What's his name from Klinger?
Jamie Farr? I don't think he's in it.
No. And this film was directed by Hal Ashby, and it was one of the first films of the 80s.
Yeah, which is kind of a neat honor.
A lot of hard work went into this movie. Would you call this a comedy, or would you call it a drama? What kind of movie do you...
I'd say it's quirky comedy drama. Has a serious side.
All right. Now, most people know this guy. What's his name? Peter Sellers from being in Pink Panther and being in different other kinds of movies. But this was another movie that he had done. That was his last movie.
I think he made some movies after this, but he did die soon after those movies were made, and soon after this movie was made.
Wow.
Which was a tragedy for the comedy fans of comedy movies because he was one of the greats.
I believe it won a bunch of Oscars, correct?
Yes, it won several Oscars and also some other awards too over in Europe, where Peter Sellers is from.
All right. Well, check out On Being There. New from part of our On Cinema Gold Edition. We're going to be making a list in the future soon that I haven't told you about, Greg, which is movies that we both officially sign off on as being gold certified. So this would definitely, I think, be a contender for that.
And it's a movie that you can get anywhere. I mean, this is a classic that any good store will be selling this on DVD. So go down. I'm not going to name any of the stores in particular, but any big chain store will have this, and you should really see it.
All right. Being There, starring
Peter Sellers and Shirley
a whole
MacLaine.
other bunch of great people in this movie. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome back to On Cinema podcast. I'm Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. It's a podcast that I put together myself where we talk about movies and have a great time doing it too.
Definitely.
Really happy to be joined by my guest today, Mr. Greg Turkington. Greg, thanks for coming by.
My pleasure. You know, I had a pretty busy day today. I was resorting and shelving my video collection. So it's kind of fun when you have reached that point in life where you spend the day shelving videos and then in the evening talking about them.
What did you find anything that you hadn't seen in a while that sort of got lost in the shuffle?
I tend to I cycle through these pretty often. So things don't tend to get lost. I tend to keep up on my collection and revisit movies that meant a lot to me at some point.
Any change in your position on this Blu-ray business, whether or not you're going to get a Blu-ray player and start making the switch, or what?
I think I will. For now, I have such a good collection of VHS and now DVDs that there's no reason to switch over quite yet.
All right. Well, today's movie is. I know you're going to love this one because off the record, just as I know you as a man, I know that this is one of your favorites. Hunt for Red October.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Based on the book by Tom what's his name?
Tom Clancy.
And starring Sean Connery and
James Bond himself.
Alec Baldwin.
And exciting. I mean, this is an exciting movie. It takes place on a submarine and a lot of action, adventure, and Sean Connery's always great.
Now, he's always... Yeah, I know you're a big Bond guy. Now, this is one of the first movies he did without being Bond?
No, he had made several before Bond and after Bond, but this is one of his most successful non-Bond movies, and it's easy to see why if you like a thrilling sort of movie.
Yeah, I remember seeing this when it came out. And it's always on TV, so I always have a chance to rewatch it again and again.
Well, I mean, if you own it too, you can watch it again and again also.
Okay, so Hunt for Red October, and the hunt for the Red October is actually the name of a submarine, and this is really a story about the Cold War, about the Russians, and about how people, some of the people that are from Russia would defect to the United States because of the freedom that's offered. So,
or if you're claustrophobic, you might not want to watch this because submarines are very claustrophobic. They're deep down in the water, and a lot of people can't deal with that. Some people don't like elevators.
I was going to say it reminded me of another movie, and the other movie I was trying to think of was actually the movie we're talking about, Hunt for October.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, check it out.
It's one of a kind, so that would happen.
Yeah, I think it's a great movie, and it's Alec Baldwin's great in this. And a funny story, I don't know if you know this, but Alec Baldwin was in the original movie, but then when it came time to make other Clancy movies about that same character, he passed. I don't even know why. But then the great Harrison Ford came in and picked up the slack with movies like Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games.
Yep.
So sometimes it's more important. It's not the actor that matters as much as the story and the directing and the producing and all the other stuff. So anything else you want to add to that?
Were there any awards? Probably not. Sometimes they...
the Academy kind of has a bias against action movies and especially Russian movies about movies about the Cold War. You'll find that not very many movies about the Cold War won Academy Awards.
No.
And there's a plenty of other movies to see, though, if you're interested in watching movies about that era and great spy movies, too. So check them all out. It's on cinema, again, coming at you. The Hunt for Red October, always a great movie. Thanks for coming by, Greg.
Uh-huh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker, your host. Thanks for everybody, by the way, for listening, and we really appreciate. A quick plug, upcoming in San Francisco, we're going to be appearing at the Roxy Theater and doing a whole night celebrating the career of John Travolta and Lily Tomlin. We're going to be showing a movie called Moment by Moment. And the information for that event is going to be posted up on facebook.com/OnCinemaPodcast. We're going to be tweeting about it. It's going to be a really exciting night. We're going to be doing a special live broadcast live taping of On Cinema, where we're going to be saluting the films of John Travolta and Lily Tomlin. And of course, there's so many to choose from. I'm going to be joined up there by a frequent guest of the show, and he's with me right now, Mr. Greg Turkington. Greg?
Hey guys, how's everybody doing today?
I'm doing great. I assume
Good.
Everyone's doing good too. Anyways, Greg, you excited for the San Francisco trip? Or?
Yeah, I know we recorded some of our best episodes when we were visiting there on vacation. So to return and do a special live presentation of On Cinema where you can come out and meet us and see the podcast being taped live and catch a great movie moment by moment. That's a treat.
Okay, so stay tuned throughout the week for more information about that. And also, just a quick plug for a guy that does a lot of great work. He's a old radio guy by the name of Stuart Fleming here in the Southland area. I've been taking some broadcasting lessons from him and been doing his Saturday class and really picking up a lot of great tips when it comes to just if you're interested in doing any kind of broadcasting, whether it's podcasting or news, journalism, or anything. This guy is terrific, and he's gotten me focused in on fixing some certain things about my diction and the way I speak and the way I use mic technique. A lot of cool stuff going on there.
Great.
So look him up if you're in the Southland area and looking to improve your skills. Anyhow, Greg, today we're going to be talking about a film that you requested. It is called, it's a Richard Dreyfuss film called Krippendorf's Tribe.
Krippendorf's Tribe.
I can never pronounce that. You pronounce it and tell me how.
Krippendorf's Tribe, and this is one of my favorites. It's a comedy, kind of a family movie, I guess. Richard Dreyfuss and Jenna Elfman. And if you haven't seen it, this is kind of one of those films that slipped under the radar. So
yeah, I don't even remember that coming out. Tell me about it. Is it's such a weird name? It must have.
Yes, and
must be
that's
some
one of the
double
things I liked
there.
about it that sort of caught my attention. Yes, Krippendorf is some sort of professor or something, and he's gets a grant to study the natives in New Guinea. And because he squanders the money and can't afford to go to New Guinea, he gets his children dressed up as these tribal natives. and films them in the backyard pretending that they're the natives of New Guinea, and it's very, very funny.
Great. Well, Richard Dreyfuss is one of the greats. He can do comedy. He can do drama.
Goodbye Girl is another good one.
And I guess, I mean, I must have seen this at some point on television. It's not coming back to me, but
oh, it's great. And Todd Holland directed it, and he's done a lot of TV work, but I think this was sort of his masterpiece as far as a film director.
Okay. Great to know. Thank you very much, Greg. And if you're looking for a movie to watch this weekend or throughout the week, check out that movie, Krippendorf.
And
I keep on saying Klippendorf.
I know, and it's not. And this is a movie that you can get very easily, very cheaply. I actually recommended it to a friend who told me, hey, I picked up that movie recommended for 1 cent.
All right.
Amazon.com.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. And again, we'll be in San Francisco.
Krippendorf's Tribe.
Let me plug the San Francisco. We'll be in San Francisco Saturday night, June 2nd, at the Roxy Theater. So please join us there for Moment by Moment and a live taping of On Cinema, where we salute the films of John Travolta and Lily Tomlin, who...
It's going to be fun.
You were telling me Lily Tomlin's actually in Klippendorf's Tribe, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, she has a small role in this film, Krippendorf's Tribe, and she's great. I mean, she's great in everything, but it's nice to see her in a movie like this.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, and see you in Frisco Bay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. It's a podcast where talk about movies and different new movies, old movies. Hopefully we'll get to the point soon where we're seeing movies before you see them. Then we could do little previews, and that would be awesome. But anyways, I got a different special show today. I've got with me my often on the show guest, Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, glad to be here and to talk about cinema with everyone and fill you in on all the details about movies that you might have missed.
And I've also would like to welcome our special guest via computer is Jordan Hoffman. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. I'm a longtime listener, and I got to say the audio fidelity of the
let me just give you a little explanation of who you are. Jordan is a film writer. He used to write for UGO.com and is a freelance writer who works for writes for MTV, About.com, IFC/Film. Screen Crush, Badass Digest, and I'm sure many more. Thanks for coming on the show, Jordan.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you both through cyberspace.
Cool. So the movie we're talking about today is 300.
Yeah, this is a great movie. I love this movie, and of course, if you've seen Lord of the Rings or that type of movie, this would fit in very, very well into that category. So I just loved it. It was a classic.
You really think so? You really think it's of a piece with Lord of the Rings? I mean, I find them to be polar opposites in a sort of a philosophical point of view, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, they're both great. They're both fantasies, and they don't take place, in Hollywood or in New York City. So with these sorts of characters, I mean, you can't go wrong, and it's just a great movie. And Frank Miller is the director and did a great job, and this was a big hit. And
actually, Frank Miller was the writer of the graphic novel upon which it was based. It was actually Zack Snyder who was the director.
All right. Well,
okay. Well, so Jordan, tell me a little bit about this movie. I mean, I'm not super familiar with it. I remember seeing it. Can you tell me a little bit about
first of all, it's based on an actual historical event, the Battle of Thermopylae in ancient Greece, the quote 300 Spartans that held off the Persians at the Hot Gates, and it's done in a very stylized manner. And I think a lot of critics don't give it its due because it was, it was released in 2007 when the political culture was really very, very testy about anything to do with East versus West.
Uh-huh.
And, it's about the Greeks symbolizing Western culture fighting off the invasion of the East, the Persians, one could argue as a stand-in for Islamic culture, and it seemed in bad taste at the time.
Okay.
But that's all to the side of the fact that it's a really engaging, fun action film that is completely over the top, highly stylized, and was quite revolutionary in its use of green screen and hyper stylized violence.
Yeah, I mean, that could be true. I think it's a popcorn movie, and it became a classic when it came out.
Well, 100% a popcorn film, but I think it actually works. Not to mix my Greco metaphors, but a little bit of a Trojan horse in that it sort of brought in some higher political themes, subversive themes, that maybe 15, 14-year-old boys weren't expecting to see.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I didn't know anything about that. I mean, like I said, I'd seen it once on, I think, Stars.
Well, I've seen it 3 times, so I mean, some of what you're saying is right, but a lot of it's just not. I mean, it's not that type of a thing. This is a fun movie.
Well, it is
it's
true.
Fun.
It is
I
true
mean,
that
kids would like it, adults like it, everyone likes it. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, no, feminists don't like it, and those who are very, hypersensitive to sort of bombastic, neo-fascist imagery don't like it. But I think they're the ones who are being.
They don't go to movies.
Okay,
I mean,
all right. Well, let me just.
those people don't go to movies.
Let me jump in because I want to talk about the lead star of this movie, Gerard Butler. Was this Jordan? Was this sort of his first big action movie, or the big movie that broke him out, or?
Certainly the first thing that gave him any real attention. I mean,
I'd heard of him before. He's done a lot of great movies over the years. He's was in Tomorrow Never Dies, James Bond. I'm a big Bond guy, so I knew him from that.
This was the one though that made him a leading man, and it's not that he does a great role. He's a sort of a cipher for alpha male. The Spartan culture is not exactly warm and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
He's there's a sequence of him just murdering the injured, but he's takes his shirt off and he's got tremendous muscles.
I don't
know if you guys...
Right, he's like a sex symbol as well.
Yeah, and he was born in November of 1969, so he's getting up there in years, but give him a shot. He's a great actor and it's a great film. I would rent this. Netflix.
It also was one of the first films anybody saw Michael Fassbender in, who now is a tremendous star. You're familiar with his work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did you see Shame, the film that was very, very popular at festivals and with the critics last year?
I have it on my list. Definitely not something I've seen yet. Is that something you'd recommend?
How many videotapes do you own?
Do I? I actually don't.
Okay.
Well, no. I mean, I used to have some videotapes.
So you're not really committed to building a library and having films for reference, because that's how you build up expertise.
Right. That's not important. The important thing is that this guy knows a lot about this movie, and he knows obviously a lot about movies in general. For example, you write for StarTrek.com, correct, Jordan?
Yeah, that's actually accurate. I write a weekly column for StarTrek.com.
But that's not an authorized site. That's just a fan thing. Anyone can. I mean, that's like
it's
like saying you write for
StarTrek.com.
Wikipedia or something.
No, it's StarTrek.com. That's official. That's an official
somebody
Star Trek
just
website.
There's poachers. There's people who make a living getting websites. There's guys that go on and
Well, can you settle a bet for us then? Because we had this discussion about several months ago about Star Trek II.
Yes.
And Greg insisted that it was, and I've pretty much confirmed it through our audience, but I'm convinced that the plot of Star Trek II was about the Wrath of Khan. It was called the Wrath of Khan, and Greg seems to think that it was about them going back to San Francisco, which is actually the plot of 4. Can you just clear the record?
You're right, Tim. Number 2 was about Khan, and number 4 was when they go back to San Francisco in the 1980s. They go through time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree. The second,
I mean, it's a
it
simple
depends on how you number it. I mean, look what they did with the Star Wars movies. If you are an expert in that, you see that they took the first one and now that's the fourth one. So I mean, anything's possible,
Well,
I guess.
actually, if you go way back, it was always Episode 4, not originally.
Are we talking about
originally-
Star Trek here?
No, this would
I mean,
be Star Wars.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't write for StarWars.com, but I
No.
I swing both ways in that regard.
Can you tell me anything about the new Star Trek movie that's coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be
No,
great. It's
I was
not going to
gonna- I'm
have
asking-
Leonard
actually-
Nimoy.
I'm actually asking Jordan here, who writes for StarTrek.com. Go ahead, Jordan.
The script is very much under wraps. There have been a lot of rumors, so I actually don't
So
right
you don't
now
know anything about it.
Yeah, well, actually, that's actually a little accurate. I don't know too much about the plot itself, other than it's the continuing adventures. There were
Well,
some
yeah,
rumors
of course. I mean, it's not. Of course, it's the continuing adventures. That's what they all are. That's why we love the series, and that's why it's a successful series.
That's right. But as far as like who the villain is, whether it's Klingons, whether it's Khan in a new form, whether it's
Ricardo Montalban died about 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, he did die, but so did the guy who played the original Scotty, and they've got a new one, and the original Bones and whatnot. In fact, none of the original cast is in the new Star Trek films, with the exception of Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, which is why fans don't care for these movies, and I give them a
It
chance.
actually did. It did pretty well. It not only did it do well with new fans, but it managed to appeal to a great number of the original fans. It was a nice handing of the baton. I mean, there were some ruffled feathers in the community, but by and large, people seem to enjoy it.
All right. Well, those are obviously 300 is very different from Star Trek, but I was glad to be able to talk to you about that here. Once again, thanks, Jordan, for coming on the show. Jordan Hoffman, you can find his work at StarTrek.com. MTV,
until they shut it down, because it's not an authorized site.
About.com, IFC, /film, Screen Crush,
It's
and
a
also
lot of
Greg,
places. It's a lot of places.
and also
So thank
Greg
you.
Turkington here. Greg, do you have any websites you want to plug, or?
Well, I'm working on my first book right now. I'm not messing around with websites, because that's, anyone can do that. And taking, 30 years of film expertise and putting it in a book that hopefully will be able to give all the details about when it's published on this podcast, on our podcast. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And stick around next week. We'll be back with more
let me do
on
the ending
cinema.
Here. Let me do the ending. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And again, thanks to Jordan Hoffman for calling in. Thanks to my laptop for letting us do this with the whole iChat and everything is really awesome. I recommend using it if you're doing a podcast and want to talk to somebody that's not in your vicinity. One other quick question. How can people get a hold of 300?
Netflix.com, which is a very popular site. And if you're not on it, it's very easy to sign up for, and it's so much easier than having to go to your local store and get movies. You just watch them come in the mail. I also recommend checking thrift stores for old videotapes. People like Jordan are getting rid of their videotapes, and you can find some great titles that way.
Netflix is good, and there are some ways you could stream it, through the various of the major platforms for streaming. If you want to watch it on your mobile device, your iPad, or right through your TV if you have that technology.
All right. That is 300 and some of the Star Trek movies we also hit on. And actually, we actually kind of talked about Star Wars too, which is cool. All right. Thanks very much, everybody, and see you next week.